connection between you and your higher self, which is your Ipri, is maintained by a silver cord. Okay, and silver is a very important metal to understand. Silver is used to heighten your perception, and it's also used to ensure that when you astral travel or you go to the astral plane, that you make it back. It's said that your astral body is connected to your physical body by a silver chain, and that's a universal concept. That's not just coming out of the Yoruba construct. Interesting enough, also in the Yoruba creation account, we're told that Obatala descends from Orun to Aye, which we know to be heaven to earth, and he descends on a silver chain. And I would say this chain could be symbolic to the DNA double helix, and the idea of a spirit entity or your true expression of yourself forming and inhabiting a physical body from a spiritual genesis. One great way to strengthen your Ori is to wear silver. Even placing silver coins in your pocket is very effective. You can make a silver elixir to drink or to wash your head with by just taking spring water or river water and pouring it into a silver cup, stating your affirmations over it, and either drinking it or pouring it over your head.
Self-actualization is actualizing the mission and idea of the soul. In order for new life to come, the old life has to rock. We've realized the self is actually that higher entity, that which controls God. You're supposed to birth yourself into these realities and then kill yourself out of those realities. That's the only escape from the matrix. It's death. Everything here is dying. Everything here is corrupted. Everything, even your beautiful sunset, is a corruption of the real self. What is your body to your soul? A vehicle of travel. What are the things that you do that are not for money? So we speak about the independent phenomenon of self-actualization. No rules. I'm going to do what I need to do, but I'm also going to show you the depth of my power. Welcome.
You are now in the realm of enlightenment and transformation.
Welcome to Chief Speaks.
All music performed and produced by you.
Enlightenment comes from allowing yourself to journey through the dark shadow of death, the primordial abyss of wisdom's waters. For it is the treasures and mysteries that lie waiting in the dark that transform us and propel us to a new enlightened state. One should never aspire to live in the light nor the dark, but should journey between the two in order to evolve the overall reality into a self-actualized creation. Knowledge is your light, as wisdom is your darkness. The bold interplay of the two in your life leads you to an enlightened understanding of yourself and the inner verse you've created. Male is your enlightenment, female is your transformation, child is your evolution. Woman, accept the light into your darkness, so it may enlighten you. Man, go bring your light boldly into the darkness, so that it may transform you. Enlightenment and transformation.
I love you so much because you just don't know what you've just done for me. Thank you so much.
Wow. Okay. This is like the best call I've had in ages on BTR.
So this show was meant for me to be able to hear today, and I'm so thankful.
That's his home.
Therefore, now a new pathway has now been cut in order to get to the Almighty, where there may not have been one. So the communication with them, if they have enough power and strength to talk to us, the communication will be very related.
That's one of the reasons I don't get into the current events thing too much because it starts to become a perpetual alarm clock that we just keep hitting snooze on. I speak to the ascended masters, quote unquote. I talk about spiritual stuff, but I also speak about some very practical, we can do today things.
Be as natural as you can be with your spiritual. You can't always go by your feelings because your feelings are corrupted. Your feelings are just as corrupted as everything else, your chakras and everything else. You got to know what's beyond you, and that's why we have elders. We can't do everything. You can't get everything out of books or weekend certification. You can have the most powerful, ancient, oldest, most, as far as you know, truthful tradition in your hands. And if you still have a dirty spirit, you're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to learn anything. You're not actually going to grow. I try to teach in a way where I make myself obsolete. That's always been my goal, to make myself obsolete.
I really wanted to, kind of big you up. I think you're awesome.
There's a lot of elders out here right now that want to know what's going on. They're not getting on Twitter and stuff like that, but they want to be up on the new stuff. Sit down and have some conversations with them. It's not always about hearing their story. It's also about being news reporters for them and letting them know, like, yeah, this is what's happening right now. They may tell you something about what happened in Charleston that you couldn't even. Your spirituality has to create sane spiritual family. Okay, and that family exists first inside of you. You have to express the different expressions of that rainbow coalition of spirits inside of you first. Okay, don't let communities hijack that rainbow. See, the problem is when we come into the conscious community, the dudes are doing the same thing that the women are doing.
I just want to say that I really enjoy your show every Sunday, and my friend and I call it going to church. When we call in, we'll be like, you going to church? And I'm like, where have y'all been at?
God cannot go against its own truth. So anytime you have an inkling that God is going against its own truth, then God is no longer behaving as God. So therefore, the spiritual community doesn't recognize God. You dig where I'm coming from? Or can we have a new thought? Can we step outside of the books for a second and have a new conversation about hair weaves and wigs? Can we have a new conversation about homosexuality? Can we have a new conversation about vegan eating? We doing all right. It's a good day for exorcism.
347-945-7680. Call in and let's build.
Greetings, peace, everyone. Welcome back to Chief Speaks. I'm Kim, one of your co-hosts this Sunday, and this is the last Sunday of the month. So this will be a call-in show. So if you have any testimonies or we're not doing dream interpretations or anything, but if you'd like to share your experience or have a comment that you'd like to make, you can call in and share that with us. On the human transformation side, the number is 347-945-7680. And on the high frequency side, it is 424-222-5250. So we're going to have some guests on this strong. Zach and Charles will be joining us again. And we're going to have another special guest, a female voice. So we're also going to invite Tya Bolton in. And they are all new students. And before we get to them, I want to go ahead and go over some announcements. And this is for those of you who may be new to Anu Nation, and for those who have just possibly forgotten some of the things that we offer. So anunation.org is our main website for the Spiritual Center, the Media Center, and the Self-Help Center. So you can go there to kind of find links to all of our websites, and you can sign up for the mailing list. SaduluHouse.com is the learning ministry of Anu Nation, and this is where you go to sign up for the spiritual training courses, the webinars, and you can also schedule your readings and consultations through that site. Osiris Life is our self-help center, kind of the self-help center, and this is where you go to sign up for monthly services. So if you need a little bit more help than usual, then maybe say like one reading a year, or if you need one-on-one coaching, you can go to osirislife.com and choose a package that fits you best. for your monthly consultations and kind of one-on-one help with Chief. Alpha Omega Store is our online botanica, and this is where you can find all of our products and services, the books, the DVDs. If you need spiritual supplies, this is where you go, alphaomegastore.com. And currently, the store is not taking orders. We'll be back actually probably in a week or so, excuse me. We are adding some things to the store and moving things around a little bit. So just give us a little time and we'll be back up really soon. I was going to say March, but I forgot. Today is the 28th, so it'll probably be open in a few days. So just continue to go back and check, and that is alphaomegastore.com. So at this time, I'm going to see if my guests are here. I think they are. Let me bring them on. Let's see. Are you all there?
Good morning. Tya's here.
Peace.
Charles.
Peace, Tya. How are you? Charles? Peace.
Yep, Charles is here. Peace.
Great. I think Zach is there. Zach, are you there? Okay. Maybe that wasn't Zach. Let's see. Zach is in, 916. Maybe he had to step away. Okay. So anyway, we have fellow student Tya Bolton, and Charles Evans is back with us again this month. How are you all this dawning?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Glad to be with you.
Thank you for coming.
Here.
Good. Thanks for coming on this show.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you both for joining us. Let's see. We do have another. Let me see if this is Zach. I see someone else with their hand raised. Just a second. 303.
Greetings and salutations, beautiful people. This is Brother Zach in the building now.
Okay, I thought that was you. Sorry. On 916.
That's all right. I was like, oh, maybe she don't know my number, but we made it.
I'm sorry. I do apologize for that. Thank you for that robust greeting.
You're welcome.
So, guys, I just wanted to kind of recap all of the shows from this month where Chief spoke to us about humility. And before we get into it, I know sometimes our crowd joins us late in the show, so let me give the numbers again. This is a call-in show. So if you all have any questions or would like to share anything, you can call in at 347-945-7680 and just press the number 1. Okay, so humility was the subject for the month. And one of the things Chief mentioned was that being humble isn't this kind of meek and mild, don't say anything image that we have of what that word means. It's more about accepting your limitations. And I know this is like really, really hard for a lot of us. And personally, my personal experience in being a woman, I think for women, since I have another woman on the show this strong, I think it's really hard for a lot of women to accept to be humble. And I think it's because of this Western mentality that we have where we have to be able to do everything, we can have it all and we can do it all. And then, we kind of have this jealousy thing that pops up when someone comes along and maybe does it a little bit better than you, and we can't concede. And so, and they probably really didn't want to do it in the first place. But it's just about, but that humility is just about accepting your limitations as a human. And again, like I said, I think women struggle with that a lot because we're very competitive with each other, and it causes a rift in our relationships with each other, and in I guess male-female relationships as well. Do you have anything to say about that, Tya?
I do actually. It's kind of a double-edged sword because you're right. We often don't recognize where our limitations start and stop But also as women, as compared to men, we often put ourselves into this box. And the box is created by our own limitations in our mind. And so sometimes we put ourselves into an area that we are not able to move beyond, but that's not even our true limitation. That's like one that we've dreamed up. And so there's a couple of things that work against being able to truly see humility as it exists.
Zach or Charles, you guys want to chime in?
Yeah, I'll jump in. It's interesting when I think about humility, just even in this whole process. One of the things that I always hear in the beginning of the intro to the show is when she says, you can't get all this from books. And, I think that part of what happens for us is that in the culture that we're in, our way of kind of learning is a very isolated experience. So it's like if you think about it, going through formal education, you kind of learn by, you're given a book, you're given an assignment, you do the assignment. Most of the time you take your tests by yourself, and if you do well on the test, there's this assumption that you've now learned or mastered a subject. And so, we're kind of acculturated to learning in a way that says that basically the more I know, I become an expert in that thing. And I think that looking at things from an expert standpoint, it makes it hard for you to be humble in your learning process because particularly in our spiritual work, there's various levels of understanding, various levels of interpretation, and there's various kinds of ways that we're moving through this process. And I think that once you get into, really deep into spiritual work, it's going to require you to become a humble person and to submit yourself to the reality that your limitations are that you don't really know as much as you think you do. And that knowledge of what you know is not something that you can learn in the traditional, in parentheses, ways that you've been learning to this point. And I know, for me personally, that's one of the things that I really had to learn with my spiritual journey because I approached it in the beginning if I just listen to all these podcasts and I read all these books, I'm going to understand all this stuff. And there's some arrogance that comes with that. And I realized that, some of that is my work to do, and then some of that is my also having to deconstruct the way that I've been taught to learn and what the process of learning and understanding looks like. And that's imposed, because of the cultural reality that, you live in if you're a person who's educated in the United States American system. So, for me, the humility part is really about stepping back and realizing and accepting that you don't have the answers, you don't have all the answers, you don't even have most of the answers, and that really the only way that you're going to learn is by being humble, submitting to the fact that you don't know everything, and then putting yourself in the space of people who know more, and sometimes even people who might, not be as far along as your journey because there's a constant learning environment that's going on around you.
Thank you for that, Charles. I definitely agree with you. We come across that quite often in class, in the new spiritual class. And like you said, even when I started too, it was the same way. We feel like, okay, let me read the book, listen to all the shows. Now I got it. I don't need anything else. And it just does not. It does not work that way. I've actually had the experience of doing spiritual work with all of you, and experience was just mind-blowing. And I can definitely say that's something that you don't learn in a book. There were aspects of it that did pull from the things that we've learned from the class and from the book. But once you're in it, it's completely different. And even in working together, doing that type of work, there are times where, you can't do everything. You have to maybe step back and let someone else handle it. But it takes, cooperation from everybody. And maybe I don't know what to do. And so in that moment, unlike the class, you can't really fake it and be like, well, I know everything. You can't. Now it's time to put the action in. So in that case, it may be a little easier to be humble because you're kind of on the spot. But when we're taking online classes and just, reading books, a lot of us do get a little big-headed when it comes to actually thinking that we know something, because as soon as we take the class, now everybody's a priest or a priestess, and they go off they go off, and now they're doing spiritual readings for everybody, and they have their own, they're making spiritual supplies and spiritual products for people, and really didn't even satisfy the course requirements. And that's just the first phase. Again, the first phase is just ministry to self. So it's really about working through, trying to become humble and working through some of your limitations and accepting that. So I definitely agree with you on that. Zach, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, a big part of that for me is just basically taking your time. Because a lot of times for me, it was just getting to, once you start hearing information, you want to get into this consumer mode. And it's like, okay, give me some more. But then I was going so fast that now I wasn't understanding what I was, the knowledge that was being given to me. So then I kept getting into more and more, because then I would hang around with people and I would repeat what I would say, and then they'd be like, oh, yeah, this brother is pretty smart. But really, I'm not having a true understanding of what is being said. So now, once you gain that understanding, or you go to somebody who actually knows and you can't fake the funk, now I think that's where the humility comes in for me, is you can't go in and say, hey, well, this is how I learned, so this is how you should give me the information. No, because if you want that information, however they give that information is how you're going to have to receive that information. And some people, including myself, sometimes I have to find that you got to humble yourself and, okay, if this is how it gives it, then this is how I got to take it, or I got to go somewhere else to find the information. And a lot of people don't want to, just concede that, I don't know it, and this is how the order and the protocols are in place for, this is how somebody gives their information, so I'm going to humble myself to take it on this plate, but they want to tell somebody, nah, this is how this food should be prepared, so give it to me like this, kind of, in a sense.
Definitely. Definitely. Again, I agree with you on that. Chief is a bit different from most spiritual teachers, and a lot of people can't take the medicine that he gives. It does require you to be very humble, and I think sometimes we underestimate what our teachers really what they really know. We, I guess, somewhat equate ourselves to our teachers. Just because he doesn't put it all out there for you does not mean that his knowledge or wisdom doesn't, surpass what he's teaching you at that current time. And another thing is, I think that because of the way education is structured in the West, we see people based on, I guess, their age. Like, I'm older than you, so I know more than you. And because Chief is younger than most chiefs, we kind of, again, try to put ourselves on the same level as he's on. You know what I mean? And we underestimate his title. And we disrespect the title because, again, like I said, we have this thing where if I'm in the second grade, if we're all in the second grade, we all know the same thing. If we're all, right, we're all freshmen, then we all got the same education. And it doesn't work that way in spirituality. So it does require you to be a bit more humble.
And that's one thing, even listening to the intro with Chief. See, Chief got me. He slipped me a Mickey. He's like, he teaches in a way he makes himself obsolete. So then I tell myself, okay, self, you should probably be, and I listen to him. I'm like, man, this brother is way out in front, way out in front. Now, how am I supposed to catch up with this?
Right.
But again, I guess it's just that African proverb, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So, again, don't get so caught up into looking at where everybody else is, kind of what we spoke on last month. Mm-hmm. Just take it a step at a time.
Yeah. I think another – oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Charles.
Oh, yeah, and I was just going to say, for me, it's interesting the point that you brought up about age. I remember, years ago taking martial arts training, and it's like you can have a bunch of people in the same class, and you could be a person who's an adult, and you're starting out at a white belt level, and you might look down the line, and there might be a 13-year-old kid who's already a black belt. So, it's not that age really is the deciding factor in how much a person knows or even what they're understanding in. It's about the time and the effort they put into their practice, to really developing an expertise around what they're doing. And even then, everyone who is considered a quote-unquote master still really looks at it from the standpoint of a learner, because you can't really master any of this. You're really just trying to figure out what's the next step and how do you go through that process. So, that age part is a very important thing, but I think that's also another part where, we're seeing this cross-section with culture, because culture kind of says that, or this culture kind of says that, well, if a person is the same age as you, they don't know more. Or if they're younger than you, they don't know more. And so a lot of what we're trying to do is deal with these, traditional African spiritual systems against the backdrop of a culture that is not an Afrocentric one. And so how do you kind of, compare and contrast those and really deconstruct a lot of how you've learned and what you've been taught in order to better really be able to apply yourself to this work?
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kim.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, on the note of culture and the whole thing about how to view the chief and then the whole age thing, I just came back from Ghana, and my experience and we met several chiefs while I was there, but the experience and just seeing how the community respected the chief and how he had all of this insulation of other elders around him. He doesn't even address people one-on-one. So our idea of how to respect a chief, and we met them they were different ages. I think the youngest one looked like he might have been about 50 maybe, and then we met one that was very much a senior, and he looked like he could have been in his 70s or maybe even a little bit older. But that level of respect from village to village was so supreme. There was no question about how to treat and respect everything that chief brought to the table. So there's a whole other part of culture that we miss here because we can't see how we really are supposed to receive that information and respect from the chief.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think it's an interesting thing here in the States, because we really don't have respect for titles, but we all want titles. It's like we respect it at one level. We can say, oh, I have a PhD, or my master's is in this, but then we really don't respect it. We don't carry that same level of respect when it comes to spiritual work. I've heard a lot of people say, like, you don't have to be initiated to work with the Orisha, and at a certain level, you don't. But there's so much more to it than we actually realize. I mean, these practices and these different titles that exist in African spirituality would not be there if everything was just one level playing field. If I don't have to be initiated, and the initiations don't stop. There are there are a lot of them. So it's not just that first initiation, and Chief has said this before, that initiation just means to start. So that first initiation that you get is not even, it's just the beginning. And so I think, too, I'm not going to say just conscious community. I know we jump on the conscious community a lot. But it's like once we have left our previous spiritual system, whether it be Christianity, any of the Western religions, or I'll say, the Savior religions, and we, drop it, it's like we lose all respect for everything. And we just want to be, just kind of out there free floating. Like, I don't have to, I can do this on my own. I am this, or I am that. And again, it comes to that, comes back to humility. And another definition that Chief gave on humility was the connection to the earth vibration. So it's bringing yourself down to earth. And I think a lot of times we get into spirituality to kind of escape humanity because we don't want to deal with those earthly things. And I've seen spiritual work suffer because of that, because we can't grasp certain things because we're too out there. We're not connected to anything. And that goes back to, again, taking the spiritual training and what Zach and Charles shared with us about the training. It's like you can't get it from a book. You can't just disregard the level of respect that you must show the teachers, and you can't just take the first phase or read Grasping the Root of Divine Power and now declare yourself a priestess. It's about a connection to the earth vibration. Do any of you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. Oh, go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
I just go ahead, Charles, because I got a question. So.
Okay, cool. I'll just say that, I mean, one of the things that I was thinking about as you were talking, Kim, is just even how even in the way that we sort of learn to look at our opponent E5, is this transition from, the Ori space, which is like that thinking space, where the ideas are, and then, the next phase of that being that essay phase, that's the grounding. That's like the ground level of where your thoughts go. And I think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about that pathway to humility. So it's like you might have these grandiose ideas and perspectives, but then what happens when that actually meets the ground, meets the earth, meets the real application of those things? And then that's where that refinement, I think really has to start for developing that humility that says, I thought it was this way. Actually, it's this way. And now how am I going to sort of refine and demonstrate some humility as I revise my process to continue my learning? So, what you're saying, I think, is right on time. And I think even in our spiritual work, even in our divination practices, we see evidence of that. Right,
definitely. Zach, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to pose a question to everybody because when you started out, it was saying how humility is a little bit, different between men and women. And then when we talked about age a little bit, Brother Charles brought up something very interesting when he said he was in did you say it was a Taekwondo class?
It was actually Tang Soo Do, so it's a Korean form of karate.
So, yeah, the Tang Soo Do class. And it's something that I guess when men can learn humility through sports, because if you bring something to the table against somebody else and they're better than you, you have to concede. Just like I played basketball and football, and if you go up against somebody else one-on-one and they're a little better than you, well, then you have to concede that this person knows a little bit. Just like if you go up against somebody else's logic with men, then if somebody's logic supersedes yours, you have to concede. So I guess my question comes in, is that where the humility is different between men and women? Because I don't really see women competing in such sports where they would have to concede, to somebody else.
That's an excellent question. When I thought about it, I was just thinking about, cooperation and getting things done. I think a lot of times that's what we can't do, like, say, in families, with our family familiar situations. It's like we want to be the main person, and then again, we don't. We complain about the roles we have. It's too hard. It's too much. I can't handle it. I'm about to, break down. But then when someone else comes in and says, oh, I can help you, it's like we don't want to give it up. We don't want that person to come in and help. And sometimes they just may be better at it than you are. Or, and you really didn't want the responsibility in the first time, but you just can't admit it because it's like, we're supposed to be super women. We're supposed to be able to do it all, have it all, and not complain about it. And I think that when we can't accept those limitations, we stifle our wealth. And because as we know, women represent wealth for many things. We are that earth energy. And so when we're constantly competing with each other, we cannot get anything done. Tya, did you have anything?
Yeah, I was gonna bring up that whole superwoman aspect that women tend to have. It's like we operate from a more emotional space than men do. And so in one flash, we want to be the superwoman. We want to handle everything and feel like we can accept all of that responsibility. And in the very next moment, we are like, this is too much. I can't handle it. And then you start comparing yourself to other people. Even for me, coming from like a business perspective, when you look at, let's say, other businesses that maybe are similar to yours but started at the same time frame, it's always a comparison. And then a woman will beat herself up and say, well, that person is better than me because they are now achieving this revenue or they have this many customers or something along those lines, and so now I'm not good enough, and that becomes a whole other issue as opposed to a male who is like, no, I'm a go-getter. I want that. I'm going to go take it. So it's a whole different way that we look at and receive humility.
Do you think men handle it a little bit better than women, or because they're
say better? I'm sorry, I can't say they handle it better, but they definitely handle it differently because women at the core are always emotional. And the feelings we get in can mess up the whole vibe because we're not coming from a place of knowing.
Right. Or logic. Logic.
Exactly.
Yeah. Zach or Charles, how is it for you, especially coming into a system where you are under a man? I know I remember Chief saying he would rather teach men than women just for that for that reason. How was it, or how is it, learning from another man, but how do you all help each other? Is it a competitive kind of thing when another brother comes to you and, you guys are exchanging ideas? Is it like a kind of a one-up situation, or is it easier for men to kind of concede and say, I see your point?
Well, for me, it's kind of
go ahead.
It's kind of like, okay. Again, I'm going to use the sports aspect for me because it's something that I know. It's just something that I've done my whole life. So for me, it was one of them. I used to play my brother in front of my house, one-on-one basketball. And, of course, I would act like it wasn't personal, but then and he would beat me all the time. Well, I would go out there and practice on my own until I got a little better, and I got a little better until when he comes back out, and I had a jump shot, and I would do this, and I would do that. And, of course, I would act like, I wasn't out there practicing. And I think it goes the same way with even learning from different people. I mean, if I go in a situation where I don't know, I have to humble myself to learn from them. But then I'm going to go back, and I'm gonna just start hitting some stuff. So when I come back, I got a little something to add to the table. So, yeah, it is kind of, you're in competition, but it's when somebody else who comes along who's a little better than you, you have to concede. Like there's you can sit there and keep arguing with them, and then you start looking like a fool. So it's either you humble yourself or you humiliated. It's one of the two. You got to pick. So I think once that starts to happen, then we start to know, all right, I'm gonna give this to Chief. Or I'm gonna give this to Brother Charles because he got a little something more. I'm gonna listen, but that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna come back the next time with a little something extra. That I'm just like, okay, now what about this?
Right.
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, I dig that. I dig that for sure. And I think for me, it's funny. I was talking with one of the folks in our DMV group yesterday, and we talked a little bit similar to this conversation. And for me, what I was saying was that I don't know if I could do this with somebody who really didn't have the kind of personality type that Chief has. Because I think for me, if I'm going to sort of work with a man, I need to have like that really kind of serious kind of man energy to it. Because if it doesn't, I would just say, all right, well, that's kind of like whatever, and I'll kind of go off and do my own thing or find somebody else. So one of the things that kind of impressed me from the beginning was his approach and the way that he goes about things. And I think that makes it easier for me just from a student to teacher kind of relationship. The other thing is that, and I think like that kind of hit on it, the idea of, Chief saying he's trying to make himself obsolete. Well, that works for me too, because at the end of the day, I'm trying to also grow and take my thing to another level too as well. And I think, I don't know if it was one of the shows this month or it might have been the shows last month when, you know, when Chief was talking about this idea of being a pillar. And so the pillar holds things up to a certain level, and then another pillar emerges, and that pillar is designed to kind of keep things up and take things to another level. And I think that's sort of the underlying theme and current to this work, which I appreciate, and I appreciate that approach to learning because that works for me. You know, for me, I'm a person that came from, you know, a competitive background in terms of playing sports and even in the martial arts. And similar to what Zach was saying, I mean, you know, if you're going to do something, you want to be the best that you can at it. And some of that determining the best at it is your comparison to other people in a healthy sort of way. So for me, I look at it as a benefit whenever I get a chance to talk to another brother that's doing this work, because as we all know, there's not a lot of, you know, brothers in this work. You know, there's not a lot of brothers just doing this kind of spiritual work. So whenever there is one, you know, whether it's somebody like Brother Zach or, you know, like Brother Marlon is a great example of this, you know, I just enjoy being around them because it then gives you a different level of application for this. So, like, I might know, like, what a sister's, you know, work with Oshun might look like, but when a brother's working with Oshun, what does that look like? That might be something completely different. And so then I'm able to see that, and that kind of helps me to, you know, take my game to another level too. So it's a good thing, but, you know, I think at the end of the day, it all kind of comes back to your character, because you have to have a character that says, I'm going to be willing to learn, and I'm going to be willing to push things, but I'm going to also kind of understand the role that I'm in now. How do I play that position? And then what's kind of like the next level of that position?
Right, right. And I think that these are the things that most people don't teach you when learning about indigenous spiritual systems. And, like, this is the part of the development process that has to come before the magic. And, you know, no one wants to go through that. You know, we just want to get to the rituals and start, you know, making some magic, so to speak. And, again, that's why the first phase of the course is ministry to self. And although you are doing rituals in that phase, it's really about, like you said, finding out what your character is and learning things like humility and, you know, just going through all of those habits and things that you've had for years that you didn't realize were there, because, again, all of that affects your spiritual work. And there's so many people that get into it, I don't think they really realize that those emotional or those habits or whatever blockages you may have will be amplified in your spiritual work.
You know, the big thing that I just...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
One of the things that, again, with just for Brother Charles to build off of that, talked about character. And that's one thing that I got from Chief is some people that you might talk to, when it comes down to telling you the nitty-gritty of something that you may not want to hear or something that may run you off, they try to sugarcoat it to you in some love and some light to not run you off, to keep you around so I can keep you, you know, with some form of income or something from you. Whereas, you know, that's when you know somebody's character, I'm going to give it to you, and this is what it is. You know, I think that's what the biggest thing for me. I don't like nothing to be sugar-coated. So just tell whatever it is, and that's what it needs to be, and then so I can go work on it and fix it. And I think that's the biggest thing with Chief is it's just like, you know what, if you leave, you leave. If you stay, you stay. But I'm going to tell it to you direct and honest, and this is what it is. And I'm like, oh, fine, man.
Right. I think that's why a lot of the female students run away, because and that's something that he did talk about in the show, on one of the shows on humility. He spoke about the fact that we like fantasy and we like being lied to. And he used the example of someone leaving a comment on one of the YouTube videos saying that, you know, like, I guess he's not real or he's not down anymore because he wasn't wearing African clothes. He's not, you know, sitting under a tree teaching. And it goes back to, you know, like you said, we want the fantasy, we want to be lied to, and it's like that is going back, being connected to that earth energy or that unified field that he spoke of as well. In that this person was not able to I guess humble herself or respect Chief, meaning, you know, in the definite meaning, to see the light in him, because he was actually on the continent doing work. He wasn't,
Right.
draped in all the African garb, but, the one thing that she thought, it's like again, I'll say, when we come into this, we want the costume. We're attracted to the costume. We equate a person's knowledge to what they look like. And, it's like we want that guru in the white linen with the mala beads. It's walking around, it speaks softly. And,
Right.
it gives us all this good information. It's almost like it's a template for it. And I think that's why spirituality is almost like the new hustle for everybody, because everybody is a reader and a healer, and you can almost look at a person's development by the way they look. It's like we all kind of go through these predetermined stages. You're gonna grow locks, you're gonna get some piercings, you're gonna change your clothes, you're gonna start greeting everybody in chopped up African languages.
Right.
It's just like, there's a template for it. And again, it goes back, like you said, we like being lied to. We like that fantasy. And when you go into your spiritual work, again, like I said, it's amplified. And he used the example of Orisha not having will. And a lot of us think that they do. And you'll get that from some people, and these are usually people who got something out of a book, and have declared themselves a priest or whatever, and people think that, Oshun likes me, so, it doesn't like you. And it's just, all wrong information. Again, it's like not being able to get past the costume, to see to respect the person.
Don't you feel like that's part of it? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, just the biggest thing for me is kind of what I was saying, that how it's in a little bit is in all of us, is just that consumer mentality instead of slowing down and really processing information. It says it in the intro. If you just listen to the intro, when Chief says you can have the most oldest, ancient spirituality, but if you approach it with the dirty, you're not going to get anything out of it. Which what Brother Charles was talking about, his character. You can start dressing up, and then you got to understand the difference between something being pretty and something being beautiful. Pretty is cosmetic. That's what is all you can dress. You can put lipstick on a pig, but at the end of the day, it's still a pig. You can put all of these locks on and this shirt on and all of this kind of stuff, but you got to feel of what vibration is somebody giving you. And that's really how you're going to find your spiritual teacher at the same time, and even your circle that you hang around, is what kind of vibration is everybody giving that you're hanging with that says a lot about yourself. And if you start looking at, oh, you don't have this and you don't have that, now you got to start asking yourself, well, really, where is this coming from? And what culture am I investing in that says this is what you have to have in order for me to pay attention to you? Because I think a lot of times in the culture that we live in, it's just what you were saying about the titles. And if if you don't have a suit and a tie or something like that, you don't have the information to help me. I'd rather give my money to somebody who looks, but he may not know half as much as somebody in the doggone hoodie. This is something that you got to feel, but you can't recognize it because you're coming up short yourself. So now you got to start checking yourself and really going back and listening to that information to digest it, becoming a scholar instead of becoming a consumer for knowledge.
Right. And it's really dangerous now because we live in the eBay age where you can just go online and you can buy the beads, you can buy the clothes, you can buy all this stuff and look the part, So we got to kind of get out of that they don't look spiritual kind of thing.
Yeah, it all falls back to ego. It's everything from what we're talking about with the titles and costume and not being able to humble and even holding on to a certain idea is all ego. And that's why we don't move forward.
Right. We do have a caller from the 347 area code. You are on with Chief Speaks. 347. Peace.
How you doing? Hey, I wanted to check in and let you know that the audio for the callers is sometimes you can't hear the callers at all, and they're coming in really low and muffled.
Okay.
So if there's something you can do to correct that, yeah. That's the only thing I'm calling that for. I'm listening to the show, but like listeners, like your callers that you have in on the show, I can't hear them.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
They're coming in face up. No problem.
Thank you. Peace. Okay, so I guess if you guys could speak up a little bit, that might help.
Okay.
Okay. Tya, you were saying? I didn't mean to cut you.
No, it's okay. I was done, actually. I was just saying that it seems that all of the things that we're talking about right now fall back to ego, whether it's the titles or the costume, and not being able to pull up. And even holding on to those relationships where people are going to continue to lie to us, it's all feeding the ego.
Right.
And then that work, it just trickles down into the actual work. Like, I'm humbled every time I talk to Chief in my monthly call. Because the things that I thought I knew, I'm learning, okay, you didn't really know that the way you thought. So that's one side of it. But then the flip side, like I said in the beginning, is sometimes I don't give myself enough credit. And so because we kind of limit ourselves to that ego and don't see the true potential, you kind of find yourself spinning your wheels. And so you really do have to really get low to the earth so you can humble yourself.
And I just wanted to add, like, it reminded me what you were saying about getting low. It reminded me of something Brother Byron called in 1 month with, and he was talking about the way you properly address a chief. And like he was saying, on the continent, you will completely get flat. Like, you do prostrate on the earth. And sometimes you have to do this in your spiritual work as well when dealing with your ancestors or any other energy. So the humility extends, even past, human relationships. And I think a lot of times it's easier for us to be humble to a spirit than it is, a person. And like you said, it's because of that ego. And that comes from these kind of savior religions. It's like you can't respect or humble yourself to your husband, but you can to this invisible, unseen entity, in the sky or whatever. And that's because you truly can't humble yourself. Why can't you respect or humble yourself to someone that you see every day and that's providing things for you, but you can do it for someone that's completely and totally, imaginary or unseen? And I think that's another tough one for women as well.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
Yeah.
Charles, and just to go back to what Ty was saying, I think the point about the ego is really important in this because, our ego is sort of that line of our sort of internal defense mechanism, and it's sort of our way of trying not to change, and our way of basically assuring ourselves to say that the way that you're thinking about things is correct, it's safe, kind of keep doing what you're doing. Because, our ego is very, very focused on making sure that, we maintain this space as being the expert in everything that's going on around us. And so when we're presented with information or experiences that try to challenge that ego, a lot of us, that ego kind of ramps up its defenses. But I think what's important to realize is on the other side of that, you have a spirit that is trying to elevate and is trying to elevate you. And a lot of what we face in terms of our experiences, the people that we come in contact with, what we're exposed to, et cetera, is the natural order trying to help that evolution and growth. But we resist that through the way that we look at our ego and through our adherence to what the ego says. So, it just plays out in so many different ways. And I think that's why really the humility part is suppression of that ego to allow our spirit to really ascend. And that's not an easy process, because it means saying, I don't know, I was wrong, I didn't understand, can you help me? And those are hard things for us to say because, our ego says, I know what I'm doing, I'm the expert, I don't need any help.
I'm sorry if what I said hurt your feelings. As if, so we're very, very ego driven. And part of that, once again, I think gets back to the culture that we live in, which reinforces those ideas right. of, a hyper individualism and I just lost the word, and a competition basis that says that, I got to get to the top. I'm on top. I'm the boss. Nobody can challenge me. Mm-hmm. If we can deconstruct that ego place, I think that's really the key to that humility, which I think is that pathway for that real level of ascension that we're talking about.
Right. And I just want to interject real quick. We are coming up on an hour in the show, and usually the show is about an hour, but I know all of our callers like to wait until the last minute to raise their hand to comment or ask a question. So, again, if you'd like to call in, it's 347-945-7680 or 424-222-5250. And if we don't get any calls, we will end it in an hour. So we have about 7 minutes left. I did see someone with their hand up, but they put it back down. So I'm not sure why, but again, if you have a question or comment that you'd like to share, this is the time to do it. Okay, so back to what we were saying. I don't know why everybody kind of waits to the last minute to comment. We always get those calls like in the last couple of minutes of the show. But I was going to ask.
I used to do that myself.
Did you?
I think
I sure did. I'm going to wait to the end. If he gets me, he gets me. If he doesn't, I try.
I think it's scary for people.
It scares them? Well, it's not like we're on a video call. We can't see each other, so that should take some of the edge off. But I was going to ask, we've talked a lot about some of the difficulties we have. What do you think are some solutions to being humble? What are some things that we can do to learn humility?
I think that the key to me, I've heard people say, is the key to life is to die before you actually die. And that goes from, even when I was a substitute teacher, and I used to go into the classroom, I would see a lot of kids. You can ask them a question, and a lot of them would raise their hand. They would, even if they were wrong, they would still raise their hand and offer an answer. But then as you start getting to 5th, 6th, 7th grade, all of these other grades, and all of a sudden you ask them a question and they don't want to be humiliated in front of their other friends, so they rather stay in their comfort zone. So it's almost like you got to see where does this change come as a kid, where you can conquer the world, and you think even if you don't know, you're still able to approach it with a childlike mentality that, you know what, I'm okay with even giving a wrong answer, but I can be corrected. I'm just searching for an answer. Really is what it is. And I think that's what it is when we get as adults. We start approaching this as, I don't want to be viewed, or I don't want to step out of my comfort zone into a place where of an unknown. I'd rather stay in the known in the dark. But, last time I checked, in order to get out of the box, the answers are usually outside of the box. So you have to start now looking outside of yourself and say, you know what, I don't know. Again, this whole subject is humility. Humble yourself to a place where, you know what, even if I'm going to give an answer, if it, the timing is right for me and I'm called upon to give an answer, I'm going to give an answer. Even if I'm wrong, I'm able to take some direction and go a different direction and say, you know what, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Let's go this direction or something else. So I think the biggest thing is just to, again, start to approach it with a childlike mentality of almost like in any day-to-day affairs, whereas you don't, and again, that just humble yourself. And the habits that you normally carry, you're going to have to start stripping some of those garments, kind of what in past shows what he says, and start carrying a new show in order to ascend to a different level.
Right. Okay, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we got our caller back. So 615, you wanted to share something?
Peace, how everybody doing?
Peace.
We all right, brother.
That's good, man. Y'all doing a good job, man. Like I was listening earlier, and every time I had a question, y'all would just answer it anyway. So that was me not like putting my hand down because I had a question and one of y'all would answer it. But I do have a question with regards as to like the humility piece. How do y'all feel about when y'all are receiving information and you feel like the information is either extremely biased based off of the other person's agenda, or you feel that it's just completely wrong, but you don't want to disregard information, but you have a feeling that it's just completely off. So how have y'all went through that phase, or how did you go through that phase of trying to see what information is valid and what information will lead you off the path that you're trying to be on?
If I can ask you a question real quick, have you ever played sports?
Yeah.
So
I currently play sports now.
Have you ever had a coach who tell you, okay, do it this way, and even though you feel like it may not work, have you still tried to do it just to see if it was correct?
Yeah. You do it because you just got to do it. Yeah.
Right. So now, a lot of times for me, I used to play football, and some coach might tell you, oh, yeah, get in there and flip your hips. I'm like, man, there's no way possible that I can do that. And you might look at them crazy, but at the same time, when you get out there and then you do it and it works, well, now you have to, again, though, that's what we just talked about is getting out of your comfort zone, because I'm comfortable with this move or I'm comfortable with that move to get to where I want to be. But now he's going to offer me a different direction to do it. Now I'm like, well, wait a second, I don't feel comfortable with doing that. But at the same time, if I want to ascend to a different level and he's already seen some people and he's in a spot where I want to be, well, then now I'm going to humble myself and take some direction. Now, he may be a terrible coach. If that's the case, well, then now you'll figure that out from, what he has produced. But at the same time, I think you'll start to understand that if you're with somebody who you have chosen and you know that they're credible, well, then, you do it. And then if it works, it works. Or if it doesn't, then that's when you come back with some questions like, well, this is what I ran into when I took that direction that you gave me.
Charles? Different way.
Charles?
I'm sorry?
I was going to say, Charles or Tya, did you all have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say that, what I was thinking about when you were asking a question is, like that expression that even a broken clock is right twice a day. And I was just thinking about how, when you come into contact with something, you, of course, have the ability to choose to accept or reject that information that's coming to you. I also think that there's value, though, in thinking about what brought you to that place, what brought you to that person, what brought you to that information, and to ask yourself, even if you're going to choose to reject that information, you've been exposed to it for a reason. So maybe you're coming into contact with something that you don't necessarily agree with or that you don't think works, gives you, as Brother Zach was saying, one, the opportunity to apply it and to test and see if it doesn't work, but then two, that might be there for you so that when you encounter that again, or when someone who you may know encounters that gives you then a chance to share that as an insight for yourself. So, sometimes our learning it's for more than just us. Sometimes our learning and what we're taking in is for other people as well. So even in those experiences, it's still a learning process anyway. You learn from talking to people who are, geniuses, and you can learn from talking to people who are fools, because they're both going to show you either what to do or what not to do. So, I think that kind of gets back to that ego part that we're talking about, which is, can you step back and kind of look at this information that's coming at you and say, yeah, this is what I do want, this is what I don't want. But even for those things that I don't want, there's some kind of value in this, because if there wasn't, you wouldn't come into contact with it in the first place. And maybe that's not specifically for you, but that could be valuable to a friend or to a spouse or to a family member who might really be on that path and might be listening to that, and it's not working for them either, but they're not capable of discerning, the value or the lack of value in
it. Okay, that makes a whole lot of sense. And that pretty much answers the question, because I have a phobia of being deceived, so I'm just very cautious when I hear anything. But that looking at it like that that's a good way to look at it, though.
Why do you think?
I get.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say that, I understand that because, we don't, I think, particularly as men, we don't want to be fooled by anybody. We don't want anybody to take advantage of us and get one up on us. But I think that when we're operating from our highest place and highest self, that's not going to happen. We're not going to be deceived in that way. There's an expression, I can't think of who exactly said it, but, it's basically like saying you can only fool somebody who's trying to get over in the first place. So, when you're approaching this, not trying to beat the system, when you're trying to beat the system, you're going to attract people that beat the system. When you're not trying to beat the system, you're going to be able to discern better when those people are around you. And I think even then, though, there is value in kind of seeing how that works, because you never know. One day you might need to beat the system too for some reason.
Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tya, did you have anything you wanted to add?
You all pretty much hit the points. Like Zach brought up the fact that sometimes we are told to do something that we don't even realize we're capable of doing, and that's kind of been my common thread. And then, Brother Charles, you brought up, needing to be in touch with your higher self. So I would approach it from both of those perspectives. Like maybe you can do it, give it a try, and then you have to also be able to see the truth in every situation by being more in touch with your own Ori. So the more you keep that charged up, you will be able to more easily see the truth of everything that sits around you.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask this. We hear a lot of people saying that, listen to your higher self, listen to your higher self. But how do you know when it's your higher self? How do you know it's your Ori, or how do you know it's your higher self or ego?
That's the question that get me every time. I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's really what we want to know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll give an answer that because I've asked this question before, and I'll tell you what was shared with me. It was saying that when it's the lower self, you can't shake the emotional attachment to it. You are emotional about it. You usually feel like if you don't follow whatever course of action you normally would do, your survival is at stake. You know what I mean? It's like and if you have to look at you have to know your history. You have to know when it's your history that's speaking and not the situation. So is this the way you always react when you're presented with new information? Do you take the same course of action every time someone tries to teach you something? Do you get emotional about it? Do you feel like I said earlier, your survival is at stake? Like Charles was saying earlier, your ego is going to fight to hold on to the point that it already knows. I know the sky is blue. You can't tell me the sky is not blue. Do you feel like that if you accept something new, that is going to harm, that is going to harm you in some kind of way? And again, look at the history of that behavior. I know with women, like I said, we sometimes become emotional, but maybe that's not the case with men. So look at your history. Do you react the same way every time somebody tries to present you with some new information or something that's different than what you already know? Do you always think somebody's deceiving you when they try to tell you something different? So I think that's how we can tell, the difference between a higher self and lower self. There's a fear attached to it when it's the lower self.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this comes along with the territory. At the end of the day, I think there's a song that says everybody has played the fool sometimes, and there's no exception to the rule. So at some point in time, I think now it just comes from learning from your mistakes. Now, you're always going to make new mistakes, but that's the whole thing is to make a new mistake and don't repeat the same mistake that you have made. That comes from your growth. And now that comes from trial and error. You're going to have to test it to see if that is your higher self or is this your ego. I think your ego is definitely necessary as long as it's in its proper place. And a good movie to watch actually is Fight Club. I think is a good one that starts showing you where the ego is and how it can start taking over if you let it. And if you don't take the driver's seat, well, then you have control of it, then it can run rampant in your life. So I think that's just the biggest thing is, your trial and error from over time. And if every time you have to keep questioning, direction from a spiritual teacher or something, then you probably got the wrong spiritual teacher. It's just my insight on that.
Okay. Thank you. Did you have another question, or did anybody else want to comment?
Nope.
That's it? Okay. Thank you for calling. We have another caller on 905. 905.
Well, hi, greetings, everyone.
Greetings.
Greetings.
You guys are on fire. It's an excellent, excellent, excellent show. Really, it is. Some key points even resonate with myself, and I appreciate it. I really do. And I just wanted to send it out to you. And, thanks a lot.
Thank you. I'm not going to say your name, but I know who it is. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
All right. Peace. Yep.
Have a good day. Peace.
You too.
Okay, everybody's calling in now. So, we have another call from 405. 405? 405, you're on.
Hi.
Peace. Greetings. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful.
Oh, I didn't actually plan on. I was quietly listening, but I do have to agree with the other callers. Your show is very good. I normally don't listen while I'm at work, but I guess it was meant for me to be here today. I did have a question. Though. I was trying to find the Thursdays and Friday shows, and I haven't been able to find them, so I was just wondering if they have moved to another spot on YouTube, or are they not doing them right now?
Okay. No, we're not doing the Thursday and Friday shows anymore. The only show that we have now is She Speaks on Sunday.
Okay, great.
But you can find all those shows on our YouTube channel. You can just type in Enlightenment and Transformation TV.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Okay, we've got another call from 816. 816?
Peace, Sister Kim.
Peace.
Peace to everybody on the call.
Peace, sister.
Thank you. I had a question in regards to if there's something that can be done to help someone who is suffering from like a mental illness, obviously, that's, kind of I don't know, I shouldn't say obviously, that's a spiritual thing. Is it, or is it not, for one? And what can you do to help with someone who is dealing and suffering with depression? I have a family member that I just found out last night went to the hospital trying to commit suicide. And so I'm just curious to know, what is it, if there's anything that I can do to help soothe the soul, or is there something you can suggest to help that?
Okay, thank you for calling. I think that sometimes we may jump the gun when we try to classify everything as a spiritual problem. So I definitely think that this person first, needs some medical attention, of course. But if you would, I don't know where this person is spiritually, or what they're willing to accept in the lines of help. I think you need to kind of be delicate with that situation. If they're an adult, if they're a minor, there's a lot of things to consider. But you are welcome to, direct them to any of the services that we offer. But again, like I said, I'm not sure if this is necessarily a spiritual problem in the way that we think it is. A lot of times we think a lot of our problems can just be solved with a quick ritual. And a lot of times the solution is a little bit more basic than that. A lot of our problems aren't spiritual problems. They are, like we were talking about earlier, these earth problems that we can't seem to manage, and we just kind of get overwhelmed. So sometimes it can be solved with just some regular psychological help. But again, like I said, you're welcome to share any of the information that we have on our site. But I would definitely, I'd be a little, I would say definitely get some medical help first. Again, I don't know what type of religion or spiritual help this person is willing to get.
I think they're not very spiritual, and they're 18, and I'm just wondering, and they are obviously when you go to a hospital, they go ahead and take you in and put you in a 72-hour hold so that you can be treated, or evaluated and all that. But I did wonder if it was something that I could do spiritually to assist, and if I'm even in position, because like as you were saying earlier, reading a couple books, learning a couple things, listening to a couple shows. I don't know if I'm jumping the gun or saying like I'm not a priestess, right. So I don't know if I'm something if it's something that I could do or not, or so I guess what you're saying is just to suggest that they do reach out and obviously follow through with whatever medical would be provided or given, right. and then try to reach out somewhere to suggest that they come to you to get better.
Yeah, I mean, we can only offer help, but we can't. Right. You can't force it on someone, and it's just like a person, when we look at all things spiritual now because we're spiritual. It's like, I just need to, do a sage cleanse for this person or something. It's almost like being that freshman psychology student. After you take Psychology 101, you want to diagnose everybody. But some things require much more knowledge and wisdom than what we have. So,
and if I may just add too,
sure.
I think without knowing much about the situation, I think you got to dissect if is this person holistically healthy, which is mind, body, right. and spirit. And then once you find out which one that is, I mean, I'm just giving you some basic things that you can start to do. Is one thing I found when people are depressed, the best thing to do is to get them to offer help to other people. And then once you get them to start offering help to other people, it'll get them out of themselves and thinking about their situation. And then next thing you know, it just starts getting the ball rolling into the mentality of thinking in a whole different direction. Again, not knowing the whole situation, but that's just a start where you can go.
Thank you. I like that.
And the other thing that I would add too is that, I think sometimes with spirituality, we look at it as if it's kind of magic. And for me, I found that it's much more like work. And so, being work is about being present. And so one of the things that, I would just suggest is being present for that person, really being there to listen to them, checking in on them on a regular basis. But I think at the beginning of the call, you said that you found out that they were in the hospital and you didn't even know that, you know, they were kind of going through this and know what they were experiencing. And so that opens up a possibility for you to, you know, build tighter bonds and a relationship with that person. That's not to say if your relationship is not close, but that, you know, sometimes being present is really one of the things that we can do to be most helpful to people that we care about. And it's obvious that you care about the person you're talking about, and I can hear the emotion in your voice. And I appreciate you, you know, being willing to take the time to call into the show for that. But I would encourage you to be present, to be listening, to be attentive, and to do those things. Those are sort of the simple, in parentheses, simple things that we can start to do that can make a difference.
And I just have one other contribution to that as well. When we do spiritual work, and, you know, we're not trying to diagnose your family member because we don't know, but if it is spiritual and you are not trained in how to deal with whatever might be unleashed if you try to deal with the spiritual work, then you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position as well. So I would definitely focus on building yourself up and making sure that you have protection around you as well, because you've got to make sure you're in a good place before you can help other people.
Definitely.
Thank you. I do. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I'm just what you got to remember too, taking into it is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. But at the same time, I mean, you can only show somebody so much until when it starts to drain you as well. And now you got to start to say, okay, there's only so much help that I can offer here until I'm going to have to pull myself back because I can't pull myself down in the same situation. I mean, there's a harsh reality that comes along with this as well. So, I mean, just like what Sister Tya said, you got to make sure you can't give what you don't have now. So make sure if you have the peace and if you have the tranquility and you have that to give, well, then certainly offer it. But if you see that you start lacking it because you're getting drained from it, you're going to have to start pulling yourself back from that, removing yourself from that situation.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all for the kind words, and it just really validates what I was already thinking and needing to, I guess, just be reinforced, because all those things that you've mentioned, I wrote down, and I thought to myself when you're saying it, I'm like, yep, I know, you know, like the oxygen mask, I got to help myself first before I help, you know, someone else. And in being present, yes, I had been communicating, knowing that something was going on, and being that we're in different states, that's an excuse. Sorry, but I you know, did go ahead and keep on reaching out after I did find out, and I know that that's something that it's just you know, I said to him, like, I will do better, you know, at being present, and the only thing that I didn't have, which was good, was the first thing was to help other people that would give them the validation or the feeling of being needed and appreciated. And like you said, take him away from his own mind and thoughts. So, and to continue to just build myself up. So thank you all so much. Sometimes it is that way with myself, just still learning to trust myself.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate you validating what it was and then also gaining something else as well. So thank you very much. And you guys are, like the other caller said, I just want to give thanks, appreciate all of you. And since I've been on board with Chief Speaks, and thank you again for accepting my call too, because I know that's a new thing also that we're back on. So thank you. Peace.
Thank you. Enjoy your day. You're welcome.
You too. Thank you. Peace.
All righty. I think we've got another caller. If I've already picked this call up, just let me know. 347. 347.
Good day, peace, blessings, sisters, brothers. How you guys doing? It's
Great.
Michelle.
I know.
Michelle, how you doing, sister?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm so happy hearing you guys. Hearing your voices is just making me humble myself. I mean, it's such a great experience, and hearing you guys talk about everything that you guys have been touching about humbling and the experience that you guys are talking about. I'm going through it as well, and I just wanted to extend my graciousness and say thank you so much. And, that's all I wanted to say, just thank you.
You are
very happy to hear you guys again.
It's good to hear from you, too.
Oh, likewise.
How's the family?
Yeah, I just wanted to connect and just, send my love to everybody, and I hope everybody's doing well in your homesteads.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Peace to you and your family as well.
All right. Thank you, sisters and brothers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Peace. Okay. And we have another caller. And again, if I have picked this call up, I wasn't aware. So 916. Okay. Let's see. 816.
Peace. Yes, I just was talking to you, but I did have another question in regards to the topic. I know I kind of went off topic, but and I do apologize for that. It was just heavy right at the time, and I did want a remedy or some kind of ritual of some kind, thinking that it, that on the topic of humility, is it the same? How am I going to say this? I don't know that I'm ready to say. I'm sorry. It's okay.
Okay. You sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Okay.
I want to speak
the best
on.
way you know how.
I guess what I want to speak it on as far as humility goes, because I'm trying to really understand the word, meaning that it's you're humbled. What happens when you humble yourself and somebody kind of recognizes that you're humbled, and then they attack you when you're humble, and then you get back to not being so humble, and then things get a little wacky, if that makes any sense.
I'm not sure if you listen to the show. I would definitely suggest you go back and listen to the shows This Strong on humility, because Chief goes into detail about what that word actually means. And being humble doesn't mean just taking everything from everybody and being being completely aloof of what's going on around you. It's about being connected to that earth energy or the unified field, and it's being able to feel those vibrations, all those vibrations around you, so that you can discern. It's not about just taking it from everybody. I know you all wanted to say something.
I was just going to say that's actually where you can get some strength. Like, I don't know if you've heard Chief talk about eating fruits with a nucleus, with seeds. And the reason we do that is because it connects us back to the earth, and that's how animals know how to act when they're out in the wild. When you see like a world event about to happen, you see the animals like come out the woods because they know what's to unfold. So the closer you can get yourself to humility, the more in tune you're actually going to become with your own movement. So it doesn't mean you allow people to attack you. You build yourself up.
Right. And it doesn't mean it to add on to what Tya was saying, being connected, like she used the animal example, is like, certain most animals, if not all, know when you approach them with a negative spirit or when you have bad intentions. And that is because they are connected to that earth energy. So I think one of the things that we can do, like she said, is eat more things with seeds, eat more, I would say, root vegetables, and just be outside more. You know, a lot of times we hide in our homes a lot. We just go from work to home, and we never take the time to spend any time out in nature. And he also gave the example of meditation. So meditation is another way.
Absolutely. And if you're actively doing rituals, try doing them sky-clad so that you can allow spirit to be closer to you.
Try doing them how? I didn't hear that.
Try doing them in the nude.
On my knees?
In the nude with no clothes on.
Oh, in the nude. Okay. Yeah, usually after I bathe, I'm sit at an altar. So I do that part, right? That's good. Okay. To know. So is there something you can suggest because I'm speaking of a relationship, but not wanting to get actual advice on it, speak too much on it. How can you, with using humility, like you said, not to take everything, Sister Kimberly, not to take everything, but when you stand on something, I guess it's just like how you stop from going back and forth, and then what is that when you're back and forth and
okay,
then you're back again? And
yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we've got like 90 seconds, I think it is, left in the show. Okay. So what I want to do is every last Sunday of the month is when we take. Excuse me, keep cutting in. We take questions every last Sunday of the month. So you can call back next Sunday, or you can send us an email. If you go send us an email at questions@ournewNation.org, we can probably get you some help as well, and you can share your question there. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So that's all for the Strong. Thank you, Tya, Zach, and Charles for helping out with Chief Speaks. You guys have any closing remarks for us? Zach, you got any great cliches for us?
A new nation, a new world. Stand up.
Okay.
And I'm out.
Okay. Again, thank you all for listening. We got 10 seconds left. Join us every last Sunday of the month to call in with your questions and comments. And thank you all for your calls. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.
Peace.
Your dreams are your laboratory. They are your astral classroom. One of the real simple things that you could do before you go to bed at night is to repeat a question of what it is that you want to receive an answer for as you fall asleep. You repeat that one question over and over and over again. If you want to strengthen this, what you do is you take a candle, anoint it first in olive oil, and put it into a bowl of water and leave that near your bedside where you can see it. And you stare into it, and while you're staring into it, ask the question over and over again while you're falling asleep. And what happens is that you're now programming on the subconscious level what it is that what classroom we'll say that you're going to enter when you enter into that astral classroom. Now, if you know that the question is even directed at a particular cosmic energy, let's say an Orisha, one trick you can do is to burn a candle of that color and also sprinkle some of the herbs of that cosmic energy in the water inside of the bowl. and just keep staring into it as you're going to sleep. You can even repeat the name. So say if it's Ochosi, you want to have a conversation with, as you're sleeping, just keep chanting Ochosi, 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 Ochosi. And repeatedly, if you do this, you know, even night after night, you'll find that you can easily, sometimes even without the chant, go into whatever mode you desire to go into in your astral realm and get whatever answer you desire to get.